This morning is just indicative of what we're dealing with, really. We're getting bad news from South Africa on the spread, a slightly more positive take from Australia on the symptoms. We're getting some good news from GSK around the use of one of the treatments against COVID-19. But it doesn't necessarily take us all that much closer, does it, to working out how big an event this particular virus variant is going to be?
Good morning. And you're absolutely right. And as you've just summarized there, it's been difficult to decide what set of assumptions forecasters need to take into account when thinking about how big of an economic impact this is going to have. If we follow the line of thinking that in a couple of weeks, we will have the news that the new variant is a little bit worse overall than what we've been dealing with so far, but it's really not a game changer in terms of vaccine efficiency, in terms of transmissibility, then I think the key impacts will come from a few weeks or maybe a couple of months of disruptions. And secondly, from a huge impact on consumer and business confidence. Because even if in a 2 weeks' time we get the news that actually this isn't as bad as we would have feared, we were right to take these precautions, but now we can go back to a place where we were before the news broke a week or so ago about the new variant. Even if that's where we end up, I still think there's going to be economic consequences just from this reminder the world has now had that we're really not sure that we're on the way out of the pandemic. And, even in 6 months' time, when things have gone back to very close to the pre-pandemic normal, we could have another cycle of restrictions, another cycle of border controls, everything we're seeing now.
Good morning, Nina. Obviously, you say it'll take 2 weeks probably till we get some clarity as a rough guide, and another few weeks before we understand the economic impact. But it's 2 weeks today until the Bank of England meeting in December. Do you think they hike rates, or what do you think this will do to impact their decision?
Before the news of the new variant, we were expecting the Bank of England to hike rates, which I believe would be first or one of the first times they would have done so at a December meeting. Apparently there is some hesitation in general about making significant announcements right before the holiday period. I think that the news of the new variant would have been enough to just about tip them into continuing with a wait and see approach. I do think amongst the major central banks, it's still going to be probably the first to move, but we no longer expect that to be in December, and we're now expecting it early in 2022 instead.
OK, and how much do you think they're going to tighten then, Nina, by the end of 2022? So if we take away the very short-term uncertainty about December, January, February, when these things might happen, what is the overall picture for tightening over the next 12 months?
I think we would still expect rates to end 2022 at quite a low rate. So we're probably expecting 2 hikes in 2022, one earlier in the year and then one throughout the summer, but not more than that, really. So even with that in mind, the monetary picture we expect still to remain relatively loose, of course, assuming that there aren't majorly bad news on the COVID side between now and then.
How confident are you about the UK economy? And I kind of see it through the prism of sterling in terms of that the UK has a large current account deficit still. It's still having some troubles with the Brexit situation. It's got the COVID problems that everyone's got. It's got deeply negative real yields, a leveraged economy still. So if we're in a slightly tightening cycle globally, how much trouble is the UK, and will sterling not be the major outlet for those pressures?
You're right to point out that there are other concerns rather than just the pandemic. There have been new tensions with the EU, some of them relating directly to trade, some of them on wider issues like immigration control. And all of that is not really a very vast picture for the UK outlook. I do think one supporting factor that we've seen over the last couple of months before the emergence of the new variant concerns is that at least compared to Europe, the UK has been in a position where there wasn't very serious discussion of introducing new restrictive measures. So larger parts of the economy were able to continue operating. So I think that is one factor that will have, in relative terms for the currency, been supportive. But you're absolutely right to point out that there are other headwinds.